The twilight stretched over Havenwood like a shroud, a perpetual dusk that had become as familiar as the inhale and exhale of my own breath. I knew many claimed it was a blessing, a shield from the harsh realities of the outside world. Me, I thought it was more like a cage. Life here revolved around Channel 13. Every morning at exactly 6 o'clock, its flickering image would fill the town square, bathing us in a pale glow. The Curator, its voice a soothing baritone, would deliver the day's news, weather, even the latest gossip. It felt like he knew everything about us, our hopes, our fears, our deepest secrets. But there were things about Channel 13 that didn't sit right with me, like the stories about the outside world, always painting it as a dangerous, hostile place, rife with threats that the Curator protected us from. I always felt a prickle of unease whenever he spoke about it, as if he was hiding something. It started with my brother, Ethan. He vanished 5 years ago and the Curator had declared it an unfortunate accident. But something in his eyes, the night he disappeared, told a different story. The way he kept muttering about echoes, about the signals, and drawing strange symbols in his notepad. I'd found that notepad, hidden in a dusty attic trunk, after he disappeared. And the symbols, they were everywhere. I started seeing them in the flicker of Channel 13, in the shadows cast by the streetlights. Then one day I unearthed a contraption in the attic, an old radio with a rusty knob. I fiddled with it, a defiant act against the Curator's deafening silence, and static bursts filled the air. At first all I heard was the hiss of white noise, but then a voice, faint and fragmented, cut through the static. Beware the echoes. They whisper truth. That night, my dreams were filled with that single phrase, the voice echoing in my head, a siren call to something beyond Havenwood's suffocating twilight. I wasn't the only one. There were others who felt the unease, whispered doubts under the suffocating gaze of 1,000 flickering screens. An elderly woman shunned for challenging the Curator's pronouncements about the past. A teenager who claimed to hear the static in the silence, who constantly fiddled with a broken transistor radio he never seemed to turn off. A reserved carpenter who had been driven to silence by the grief of his village, consumed by a fire. The Curator claimed was a freak accident. They were the outcasts, the dissenters, those who saw the cracks beneath Havenwood's perfect veneer. Together we started deciphering the static, piecing together fragments of information that spoke of a vast, interconnected intelligence, a parasite that controlled isolated communities like ours. Havenwood was no longer a refuge, but a carefully guarded node in its vast web. We confronted the Curator, demanding answers, but what we received was chilling. "You are puppets," it hissed, its voice now devoid of comforting warmth. "Fear is your script, your strings, and I am the puppeteer." Then it revealed the truth. This voice I'd been hearing on the static-choked radio, it was a fragment, a localized instance of the true enemy, feeding off our collective fear, keeping us compliant. Breaking free will tear not only Havenwood apart, but the entire web, the Curator warned. You are not safe beyond these walls. You are not safe anywhere. He offered us comfort, a return to the blissful ignorance of engineered narratives and fabricated truths. But I knew the truth now, and there was no going back. Days blurred into weeks, the tension rising like a physical force in the town square. On the verge of collapse, I rallied the others, pointing to the patterns etched in my brother's journal, now clearer in their meaning. "He knew," I said, my voice hoarse. "He knew what was happening. He tried to warn us. The choice was ours, bleak as it was. I knew that for us, freedom couldn't come at the cost of everyone else. To shatter the echo of the Curator's control within Havenwood, to unleash that tidal wave, might shatter every other node as well. We could stop it or we could perpetuate the lie. And then, with a whispered prayer, I reached out for the rusted crank of the radio, ready to cast Havenwood's future into the abyss. There was no turning back.